Today, we're going to go over what's called the e-Oscar dispute method. E-Oscar is the system that the credit bureaus use to investigate and verify your disputes, right? Everybody talks about the Metro 2 dispute method, the factual-based dispute method, and those are great methods to use to dispute negative items on your credit report. But the system that the bureaus use when you send in or mail in your dispute letter, they scan read it through a system called e-Oscar, which chooses what's called a dispute code that they use to then send off to your lender, right? The furnisher of the information, whether it's a collection company or your original creditor, to investigate and verify that dispute letter or the account that you're disputing. So we want to bypass the e-Oscar system because you can't freeze it. So we want to use the actual code or the language that e-Oscar uses for the codes that they choose when sending these disputes through their electronic system. Remember, there's no person on the other end of the dispute process. All of this is done automated through a computer system. So we want to get ahead of that system, and we want to use that system pretty much against itself to get these accounts removed. So without further ado, let's get into the e-Oscar dispute method. Let's go. All right, guys, let's get into the e-Oscar dispute process. But before we get into this process, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go over this testimony by a man by the name of Leonard Bennett. He's a consumer litigation associate out of Newport, Virginia. And this testimony was done before the House Committee on Financial Services regarding the Fair Credit Reporting Act, how it functions in consumers, for consumers and the economy. This was done back in 2007, but it's still relevant to this day. So let's go down to page 21, and I'll drop the link for this in the description below. But let's take a look at what e-Oscar is and what it does, because it's important to get a understanding of what e-Oscar is, and then how we're going to use e-Oscar as a system against itself to get these negative items deleted from your credit report. All right, so let's see what he was talking about. We're going to skip down to the second paragraph. He said the three major nationwide credit reporting agencies, or CRAs, all of their trade line or creditor/collection disputes go through an electronic dispute processing system known as e-Oscar, the online solution for complete and accurate reporting. It's owned by Online Data Exchange LLC, a for-profit joint venture with ownership divided equally among the big three credit reporting agencies. So Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax all own Online Data Exchange, which owns e-Oscar. So this is a byproduct of the credit reporting agencies, right? So it says plus a fourth credit reporting agency known as Innovis. So you throw Innovis in there too, or Innovis, however you want to say it, right? It says e-Oscar is web-based and permits furnishers like your collection agencies, your creditors, or your lenders, right, to communicate with the credit reporting agencies over the internet. So it makes the communication faster. This is why you don't see them. This is why they don't, when you mail your dispute letter to the credit bureaus, they're not mailing it to, the collection company or the lender. They're not faxing it. This is all internet electronic communications going on, right? This is what e-Oscar is done for, right? This is for faster communication, as they say, but they still get 30 days to investigate. Right? It doesn't make sense. Right? It says these communications utilize standard forms with codes, automated consumer dispute verification, and automated data forms, or AUDFs. The credit reporting agency initiates a request for a reinvestigation with the furnisher by sending an ACDV through e-Oscar. So when you send your dispute letter, right, your dispute letter gets basically reduced to what's called an automated consumer dispute verification form, or an automated uniform data form, right? It gets changed into this different type of form, And it's that which is communicated to your creditor, right? This is why they say they initiate a request for reinvestigation with the furnisher by sending the ACDV through the eOscar system. So your dispute letter is reduced to an ACDV, and that ACDV form, whatever it is communicated through eOscar to your lender to be verified as accurate or for them to delete it. But and again, there's no way to freeze eOscar either, right? You can't freeze eOscar just like you can freeze some of these other bureaus. And again, the credit bureaus are not using uh Sage Stream, any of the secondary credit bureaus to do any of this. They're using eOscar. So I don't want you guys to get caught up in thinking about freezing the secondary credit bureaus. If you're doing that, you shouldn't be doing that. It's unnecessary with the dispute process because, like we're reading here, they use eOscar, and you can't freeze eOscar. I'm going to show you how to leverage eOscar to your advantage using the eOscar dispute process once we get to reviewing the codes. But let's understand again what eOscar is. Let's understand the mechanism behind the dispute process. This is the key. This is the real sauce to the dispute process. Everybody talking about Metro 2. Metro 2 has to do more so with the way that the information comes in, right? We're dealing with the way that the information is being disputed, right? We can deal with Metro 2, and he deals with Metro 2 in this testimony, but we're focusing on the eOscar dispute method because this is the end, right? This is where the ending of the dispute process. This is where we are. We're at the end of the credit report, right? We're trying to investigate stuff that's wrong and get it deleted. They use eOscar to do that. They don't use Metro 2 to do that, right? We need to understand the difference between the two. And maybe in one of the other videos, I'll do a video on the difference between Metro 2 and eOscar, right? I might do that next, as a matter of fact, because we need clarity, right? So what happens is it says the ACDV contains information, identifying information about the consumer in the credit reporting agency's file, one or two codes summarizing the consumer's dispute, and if the credit reporting agency deems it necessary, a one-line free-form narrative field that supplements the dispute codes. This free-form field is sometimes referred to as the FCRA relevant information field, but is rarely used, right? They not really relevant to what we're looking for, right? It says the credit reporting agency's procedures manuals offer almost no instruction for their ACDV clerks as to what information should be placed in this one-line text field. As a result, the field is often left blank. Okay, cool, whatever, right? It says ACDV clerks at the credit reporting agencies select a specific dispute code. Now, this is where we're going to get into the eOscar dispute method, right? Because listen closely to what it's saying, right? And then you're gonna see this in the codes, and this is where we're gonna use the actual eOscar dispute code in our dispute letter to make it easier for this ACDV clerk, right, to choose or select the specific code because that's their job. They have to select the specific code. So let me go through this and I'll explain the logic behind what we're doing, right? It says the ACDV clerks at the credit reporting agency select a specific dispute code from among 26 offered by the eOscar system. And we'll go over those 26, right? It says such as, quote, not his or hers and claims account closed. These codes are often contained in a drop-down pick list criteria for selecting the appropriate pick list value for a certain dispute is often more specifically detailed in the procedures manual. Now, if we could get our hand on the procedures manual, that'd be great. But that's something that's like kind of like top secret type thing for them, right? But again, they have to select the specific code. So when we're sending these dispute letters in, sometimes you write, delete this account, this is what's wrong with it, the date, that so you're very detailed. But sometimes what happens is it confuses either the eOscar system or the person that's selected to select the specific code. We want to make it as easy as possible for the system or that person to know exactly what code we need them to choose and select to dispute that account to get it removed. Because if they're looking at too much detail information, the dispute is referencing the FCRA 15 USC 1681 this, and it's you using too many terms use either system or the person that's has to select the dispute code. We want to make it as easy as possible for them to say, all right, this is the drop down menu. I know exactly which code to pick for them, and they're gonna pick, and it picks the code in that, as opposed to using too much detail and the wrong code gets picked and the account gets verified. And then you're stuck in this dispute cycle. Let's make it as easy as possible. So this is the logic behind this particular dispute process. So I think that's about all we need to kind of go over as far as what eOscar is. We will do some more video over this testimony, but this is the actual eOscar website. As you can see, it says developed by Equifax, Span, Innovis, and TransUnion. So they admit owners of the eOscar system, but this is the eOscar website. It's e-oscar.org. It's not really relevant that you go here as a consumer. But if you want some more background information about eOscar, you can go there and check it out, right? What I wanted to do though is I wanted to go over some of these eOscar codes, right? And one of the things that I did was I put together a ebook, right? This is the ultimate guide on the eOscar dispute method. There's a link in the description below if you'd like to purchase it. It's currently on sale. Take advantage. This is where I kind of break down what eOscar is, and then I list the eOscar codes, right? So these are some of the eOscar codes. Remember, they talked about 26 codes, right? This is a list of those codes. So what we want to do is we want to pull our credit report, right? So like in the example that I give here, right? You want to pull your credit report. Typically, you want to do identity IQ so you can see all three credit bureaus on the same page, color coordinated. It's very, user friendly and easy for you to interpret, right? That's why I like identity IQ, because the way the layout is very easy for you to interpret the data that you need to dispute the account, right? So this is a auto loan account, right? This is a car loan account, so it's a repo. And when it comes to repo, collection, charge off, foreclosure, bankruptcy, whatever the account might be that you're looking to get disputed, you're going to dispute it the same way each time, whether it's a repo. So like a lot of people say, oh, I got a repo, how should I dispute it? Use the factual dispute method. Use the eOscar dispute method, right? And with this eOscar dispute method, we're still going to use the factual analysis method, basically, right? But we're going to look at the actual account as it is with identity IQ, and we're going to look at the factual data or the data that's on there, and we're going to see what's wrong. So like with this account, it's like a repo, um, and I highlighted accurate, right? We have the date open. We have the high credit amount for Equifax. We have the last report date with Equifax. Then we have the date last active and the 2-year payment history information. So with this account, we would look at the eOscar codes and try to find what matches what's wrong, right? So again, most of it had to do with the dates, right? So we would say, right, we would say disputes, dates of last payment, open, first delinquency, billing closed. Not really. We're looking more so at this one right here, where it says disputes present, previous account status, payment history, profile, payment rating. So we can kind of choose between one of those two. Well, we would say I would say a date of last payment, right? So for that account, we would say disputes date of last payment, right? And, or we could say disputes payment history profile, right? Disputes date of last payment, or you could say disputes date of first delinquency, or you could just copy this whole thing. You don't want to use the number. You don't want to copy the number. You want to copy the language that's being used, right? So we would basically copy either this whole section here, or we would copy this whole section here, right? Either 105 or 106. And then we would just plug that in on the dispute letter, right? So you would have the dispute headed up. And I have sample letters here as well. So you can use these sample letters in this ebook So this is again, this right here is a sample dispute letter for 014, where it says claims paid before collection status. So if you have a collection on your credit report that you're disputing, you want to get removed, you can use eOscar, this particular dispute code, right? 014, and use the language here, right? It says, I'm disputing an account, put the account number indicating that it reached collection status. According to my records, this account was resolved or paid off prior to reaching collection status, right? So that's basically what it's saying. Claims paid before collection status. So they would know when they pull that drop down, they're going to use 014, right? Wherever that is, right here, 014, claims paid before collection status. So you just made it more simple for them. And if you and if you don't want to use all this extra language, you don't have to. You could just simply say where's 014 right again. You can set an account and then put the account number. You don't have to put indicating that it reached collection status. You could just say, I'm disputing an account number, put the account number in there, and then say, this account was paid prior to reaching collection status. Or you could just put, right, you just put claims paid before collection status, right? You could just put, I'm disputing an account number, and then put right next to it, claims paid before collection status. Right. And then I also have the last dispute letter down here is a sample of an account that would require multiple accounts that you're disputing at one time, right? Because you could list multiple accounts on one letter for each bureau, right? You don't have to send one specific letter just for, and you got 3 or 5 accounts that you need disputed, right? You don't want to send them separate letters, right? You want to put each thing that you're disputing on the same letter. So this is a sample one for that, right? So it would be like, you put the account name and number, and then you would put like the reported balance is not consistent with the accurate current balance on this account. That's one of the eOscar dispute codes. I don't remember which one it is, but I just copied and pasted it, right? So again, if you're disputing another account and you find whatever's inaccurate with it, you say this account is currently in litigation, it should not be reporting any information. That's another dispute code, right? That is, let's take a look. That's a good one to use if that's the case. And sometimes if it's not the case, you can still use it and you might get the account removed, right? See 040, account involved in litigation, right? So you would just plug in any one of these codes. And you notice that, it's the current balance, right? Something's wrong with the balance, right? You notice that the balance is off because normally with charge-offs, that's how it is. You would plug that particular, just copy and paste dispute current balance in your letter where you have the account name, maybe it's Chase, you put the account number and you just paste it in there, dispute current balance. That way, when computer system, the eOscar system reads your dispute letter, it knows exactly which drop down dispute code to choose. You've already given it the language, right? Again, the theory behind that is that you take the guesswork out of it behind the system having to choose or decipher through a bunch of language, that it might overlook the actual dispute code that you needed to choose to get that account removed, because it might choose something different. And this is probably why the account keeps getting verified, right? And once that account gets verified, typically the first time or the second or third time, it's harder to get it deleted after that. But again, this is why we're using the system against itself, right? This is why you want to study these eOscar codes. You want to get this ebook, study these codes, use the codes, use in a language that's in them to draft your own letters behind the accounts that you need to get removed, right? And I'll be doing more workshops on this as well.